Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging this on. I'm merging this, and then I got to do a couple things because I got to try to mute it on Facebook so we don't have the echo.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging. We don't have the echo.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging. We don't have the echo. Okay, I'm already on mute.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging. We don't have the echo. I'm already on mute.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging. We don't have the echo.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Okay, Dr. John, I'm logging. We don't have the echo.
I see. I'm gonna post this.
Oh, Dr. Joe. So it may show up. Hold on one second. Let me make sure it's not on my Facebook to where I can hear the echo. Hold on. Oh, Dr. Joe. So it may show up. Hold on one second. Let me make sure it's not on my Facebook to where I can hear the echo. Hold on. So it may show. Nope. So pause there. Can you hear me? An echo could never. An echo could never. Okay, that'll be good. So last live I did, I missed all of the comments. There's a lot going on. But when you have so many screens, you already know. So I got you on my laptop, iPad. So I'm trying to catch questions, and that just may not be the case today. So anyway, hi.
What's up? What's up? What's going on?
What's going on? I'm so happy we're here.
I am too. It's been about a month since we connected. I think a little over that, something like that. But we're here now.
We're here now. Everyone said, I was talking. I know you have a conversation with my cousin Shayla Locklear, who is a coach, and she's incredible. And her was like, how do you know Dr. Joe? I was like, I don't. Okay, I'm making very clear. I do not at all. But so, on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is kind of new to me.
Uh-huh.
And so, on LinkedIn, though, if you have a connection who has a connection, somebody reposted, did something of yours. And I was like, oh, it's Dr. Joe. He said something dope. And I followed you. So I don't even have a real life story of we grew up together. So I did from prison to purpose yesterday with this guy that I grew up with. We grew up on the block in Milwaukee. And so that was our story. And then Dr. Joe, I'm like, I don't have one. So.
But we was in the same neighborhood though. I'm 21st and Vienna.
Look, we grew up in Milwaukee. That's where we started. So anyways, so let me start. I'm Erika Genice. I have dope conversations with dope people. That is my claim to fame. I don't have nothing other than that. I have people on here who are able to articulate things way better than me. We have Dr. Joe Johnson here, who you're an author. You are an international speaker. You are a coach, and the ebook that I just saw not so long ago that you have. And so you are doing absolutely amazing things. So for you to even have agreed to talk to me is a big deal, because listen, so real story. So this is for people who starting out. Listen, I reached out to you on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about having a conversation with you. You was like, okay, cool. Where's your website? I was like, yeah, it doesn't exist. I don't have a website, right? I don't have a website. I don't have a lot going on as far as the business aspect of it. But what I do is have dope conversations with dope people. You was like, oh, that's enough. Let me know. So I say that to say that that what you said to me could have really discouraged me. And I think it could have discouraged people to where maybe I don't have a lot of people that follow me. I don't have the website, all of these things that's in the work, but it didn't apprehend us from having this conversation. So thank you for allowing my less of professional, whatever you want to call it, right? But
but this the thing though, like, you know, one of the things about me is I love where I'm from, right? And whenever I see somebody, you know, creating something that's dope from where I'm from, because, you know, it's not a lot of people who are trying to do, there are people doing some great things, but when I see that, I'm like, all right, cool, that's all I need. Because one of the other things that I always share with people is you treat the janitor like you treat the CEO, because you don't know where that janitor gonna end up, right? And I'm not calling you a janitor, but what I'm saying is you're
make
at
it
the
plain.
beginning.
But what you don't kind of
You listen.
if it was bad, to make it plain, your girl is janitor.
Hey, no. You're starting something, and it is what it is. Like, I looked you up, right? Who do I know? Who does she know? Let me. Oh, I did my research now. I looked you up, so don't. Let me be clear. But, you know, once again, you're from where I'm from, and I like what you're doing, so I'm cool with it.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Thank you, Dr. Joe. So let's get started. Let's get this. And I only got an hour with you, and I'm not going to take you a minute past that. So the title of this conversation was heal the past and get to the bag. Yeah. And one of the things that you and I talked about just kind of in our conversations was, in order to monetize, you have to have some sort of healing. So one, tell me about your coaching and how you even got started and how healing became a part of that.
Yeah. So real quick, for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Joe Johnson, international speaker, peak performance coach. I've had the luxury and I've been blessed to work with companies like Toyota, FedEx, the National Guard, institutions like UCLA, University of Michigan, University of Florida, countless school districts. And, you know, one of the things that I share with people is that my background is an athlete. I played in high school, college, a little bit afterwards, and I had to find a career that gave me the same high as playing a sport. Think about it. I had practice, game time, eyes on me. What I do at speaking, I have practice, then I have eyes on me, right? But now I get to save lives, right? I get to change lives. And at the end of the day, I also get to monetize a skill that I have, right? Now, coaching came after all of the speaking, right? Because I never really thought about coaching in the way that I do now. But what I realized was that when I would go and do keynotes, that's great, right? I could tap the soul, you could feel good. And what was needed was more touches, right? So people needed to feel good and say, man, I never thought about that topic that way. I never thought about this. My life needs to change, whatever it may be, when they hear me speak. But then it was, okay, how do I take you from where you are to where you need to be, right? And so the coaching came, and everything that I do is under the foundation of identity, knowing who you are, purpose, why you're here, and transitioning how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And part of that right now is that internal healing that a lot of us have to do.
Yeah. So what do you think that we're missing as in the internal part, right? So when you and I talked about, we were like, we could have taken this conversation in a many of different directions, but we just didn't have the time, right? And so, you know, I get obsessed with romantic relationships. You was like, yeah, that's cool, but it also branches off in so many other things, right? So what is it about healing that we're missing when it comes to business?
Yeah, so let me say this, because before we get into business, it's the self, right? You're working on self, and then you do business, right? You don't do business, then work on yourself, right? And so when I think about that question, what do I think is missing? What's missing is the way in which a lot of us have been programmed to see ourselves and to see ourselves in business, right? And what I mean by that is, a lot of us think that we can pray our issues away, right? A lot of us think that we can church or go to whatever religious organization or wherever. We think we could do that and everything will be okay. We can read a book, we can go to a conference, but I'm here to let you know that you have to do all of that, and you have to, and some, right? You have to actually go to the professionals, right? You have to, there's no such thing as I went here and boom, I'm healed, right? It's a constant thing. You may feel good one day, but it's a consistent effort. And so what's missing is the fact that you have to constantly work on yourself, but also we got to get away from thinking we could pray things away.
You know, when you and I, we had a conversation, it didn't get too deep, but we were on the phone, and I'm super Christian, and you have your own beliefs, but you are very clear that there is a higher power, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But one thing that you and I agreed upon was it's not just religion. It's not just a higher power. It's also about getting healing and having a therapist and having a life coach, and maybe all three of those things. I think that I'm starting to get to Jesus, life coach, and therapist. Like I need
Yeah,
all three. And listen, give me the whole trinity at this point, because
absolutely.
I didn't know that all of those things. Honestly, I thought it was just two. I thought it was my therapist, and of course my relationship with God. But now talking to different life coaches and knowing like there's also so many different areas you can be healed from, and so just having almost like a team to navigate just life. So it's not just this one thing where we used to go to church on Sundays and altar call, you cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's way deeper than that.
Well, because from my experience, I always like to make sure I'm speaking from my experience.
Yeah.
From my experience, what I would see is people thought that they can get everything from this one place, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's not the case. Now, there are some places, and I'm talking like churches and religious organizations who provide certain opportunities and learning and all that. But to me, you go there to get that spiritual work, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can have somebody there that can help you with your business or to, find a new job, whatever it may be. But too often we put all our eggs in one basket thinking this is where we can go and everything will be okay. And that's not the case. Like you said, you might need a pastor, you might need a therapist, you might need a coach. As a matter of fact, you might need multiple coaches. But I always share with people, your coach is not your therapist. Your therapist is not your pastor. Your pastor is not your coach, right? And so you got to make sure you know who does what for you and what you need and what you receive from it.
Yeah, that's good. I will say that going to church and being able to get back out there, my pastor at one community church here in Dallas has been very clear that I'm not your end all be all. And it's right, but it's so dope because that's not necessarily what the narrative was prior to that. The narrative, what I think growing up was, like you said, your pastor was everything to you. And if you can't get it through that spiritual outlet, then it's not possible. But he's very clear of like, listen, all I got is this. And then so all this other stuff you got going on, baby, I can't deal with all that. And so it's very important to, like you said, to have different outlets.
Yep. And I'm glad that you said that, because what I'm starting to see, my grandfather, before he ascended, right, and left this earth in the physical, and my uncle, both of them ascended, but they were both pastors. And what I'm starting to see is that there is in a sense, to me, I would say this new awakening in how people are starting to teach and preach the word of God, right? And to me, too often, what I was getting in my childhood was a lot of regurgitation, right? And now I'm hoping that people are seeking for themselves so that they can interpret the way that whatever they interpret and then share the way in which they see it, not the way mama told you or your pastor told you just because you grew up there your whole life, right? But are you seeking for your own understanding? And that's what I've been doing. And that's why I always bring it up. And it's not to knock anybody. I say do what you do, but it's important for us to seek for our own understanding and teach and preach from there. However, it's always good to practice. Let me say it like this: to preach what you practice and not to practice what you preach. Let me say it like that.
Listen, hit it one more time. What is it? It's better to what?
It's better to preach what you practice versus practice what you preach. You know what I'm saying?
So true. So I don't necessarily know your beginnings of how you got into this this space of pouring into people and being able to start a business, and where you're like, listen, if you are not healed from the past, being able to go forward, right, is almost impossible. So can you take me back to how did all this start? Like, how did little Joey, look at me, giving you a whole nickname, listen, before Joe Johnson. So how did Did something happen in your corporate career to where you were like, listen, I'm done? Are you still in corporate? Or what happened to where you started the Joe Johnson movement to where you felt like I can pour into other people the way that they really needed it?
Yeah. So it's funny you said that. So if you ever hear anybody call me Joey, they're probably my family or they've known me since I was little. So it went from this Joey phase to this Joe Johnson, the athlete, right?
Yeah.
To Joe Johnson speaks. I started speaking to Dr. Joe Johnson, right? And right now I make sure that I'm very clear when I talk to people, and I make sure that they call me Dr. Joe, right? And it's not because I lead with, hey, I'm a doctor, I'm better than anybody. It's because I'm a representation of what's possible, right? People from 53206, you already know, you from that area. People from 53206,
Yep.
they don't do what I'm doing, right? And there are some that comes out and there are a lot that don't make it out. And so I'm a representation of what's possible. And I need to see people who look like me who come from places that I come from. They need to hear, oh, that's Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe, he got tattoos, he wearing fitteds, he wearing sneakers, all of that. Yeah, but your boy also put on a suit, right? And so I need to make sure that people know there are dimensions and levels to who I am. I'm a chameleon, right? But to your point, your question, I've worked in K through 12 as a school counselor. I've worked in higher education. I've worked in corporate America. And through all of those times, my soul was speaking to me. And my soul kept saying, yo, this ain't it. This ain't it. And what I know about a lot of people is that they're sitting in their office, they're waking up every single day. They can't stand to go to that job. They can't stand to go in those meetings. They're in those meetings laughing at jokes that ain't even funny, right? I know their soul keeps talking to them, but they're not listening. Yeah. And so when I started to listen to my soul, right? That's learning, right? Prayer. I started to listen, right? My soul was talking to me.
That discernment.
And I said, discernment, right?
Yes.
And I said, you know what? I need to listen to what my soul is saying. And what I did was I started speaking, and then speaking opened up the doors. Because I always say, when you tap into that initial layer of your purpose, you would then get introduced to the other levels of your purpose. Yeah, so that's what happened.
Yeah. That's good. You know, I think that speaks to sometimes we get super caught up into corporate, and I have been her, right? So to where I'm making $100,000 and life is great, but my soul wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't living in my purpose, and I wasn't tapping into that. And so I think that a lot of people just even listen to this, or just in general, is able to identify with being this person that you feel like you need to be, but it's not really your calling. I will say all day, and it's just all transparency with just Erika Genice brand and what I'm doing. I don't make a penny off of it, right? And I've made $100,000 off of corporate. This is the most fulfilled that I've ever been. And I think that's when you get to your point, and not, it will at some point become whole other brand, but I think it's important that you start tapping into certain things and not being so caught up into corporate.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, because you made a great point, because, you know, some of my clients that I work with, like, you can be very productive, effective, and make a lot of money, and at the same time be unfulfilled, right? And you can also be overworked, underpaid, and unfulfilled, right? There's two sides, right? The question is, how do we create a life where your career and just your personal life, you have total fulfillment? That's what the question is. And that's where that word purpose comes in, alignment comes in. So I love what you just said in terms of you was making that money, but something had to shift.
Something had to shift. So okay, so then that wasn't one of my questions. So now I'm gonna shift to this. So is it possible to work corporate and be fulfilled, but also do a Dr. Joe and Erika Genice and be equally as filled? Is there a marriage in between the two of those? Is that possible? Or is it just kind of like you got to pick one or the other?
Well, the cool thing about this life that we're given, and I love the fact you down in Texas, so I love, you know, hip hop mogul, what he said. This is Jay Prince. Jay Prince said, every morning we wake up, we got a chance and a choice, right? And the cool thing about the life that we've been given is we can always create the life and career that we desire, right? So there's
within corporate and without, like, either one.
Listen. There's this misconception that it's either this or it's that. Right? Either you're working 9 to 5 or you're this entrepreneur. You can't do both. Let me tell you something. You can do both because you get to create the life you want. You could go to your corporate 9 to 5 or whatever times you work, and you can do your little side entrepreneurship whenever you want to. Or you can flip-flop them. Or you can say, I'm done with that. I'm going to go full-time entrepreneurship. You get to create the life that you want. But the key is to be able to listen to what your soul was telling you and be fulfilled and have that peace, because nobody wants to make $100,000 and be stressed the hell out. Nobody wants that. And nobody wants to be an entrepreneur and be broke and be stressed out. Right. So it's all about time, listening to your soul and timing, because some of us prematurely leave where we're working to do something we want to do, but you did it too early. Right. So it's timing matters as well.
So the key to both, successfully doing both. Right. And so when I say successfully, it's not always about money. I think you would agree with that. Like success sometimes is just the piece of things. Right. And so being able to be in corporate and having your own thing is a matter of, while I'm at corporate though, this isn't necessarily draining my entire soul. Yeah. And I'm able to pour into people. And then the same thing with their business. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, nobody should want to pour from a cup that's half full, right? You should want to pour from a full cup, and you're giving away overflow. Yeah. Right? Follow me? Like, right? I can't give you all of what's in my cup. I want to give you the excess, right? The when I have more than I need, that's what I want to give you. And when you're in that space, it's easy to kind of flow. But too many of us, we're giving from what we don't have, and we're trying to figure out why our life isn't together, and now we're stressed even more.
Yeah. So what's your what's the correlation between personal healing, right, and entrepreneurship?
So let me break it down like this, because if you ask me, there's only one type of healing, right? And what I mean by that is you're working on you, right? Mind, body, spirit, all of those areas is one healing, right? And through that work, then you can go and do what you need to do. And it flows better. It's easier for you. But the connection is this, because I love to give this example.
Okay.
If you grew up, and if let's use where we from. If you grew up in 5 through 12/6, and you were used to somebody does something to you, you snapping on them, or you ready to fight, right? So let's just take that example, right? And you've grown up like that. And I always tell people, a lot of times when you grow up in the mindset of survival mode, you operate a certain way, right? So
Brody, sorry.
Look, that dog feeling it. That's just he feeling the energy.
Listen, he grew up on 23rd and Lloyd. What's up? oh, Frisco white dog. Come here, Brody. He could never.
So if you grew up and you're used to snapping at people when they wronged you or they did something bad to you, you're used to getting physical. When you move into entrepreneurship and somebody does you wrong, you can't take what you're used to doing into entrepreneurship, or you won't have clients, right?
Yeah.
You won't have a thriving business because of your attitude and the way that you react. So if you don't heal that part of yourself and understanding why do you react like that, you'll never be able to win in business.
Yeah. I was, when I was loosely talking about this conversation with my therapist not too long ago. So she is JB. She's my therapist, personal therapist. And she talks a lot about big T and little T trauma, right?
Trauma. Yeah.
And so big T trauma is, anything that you think of from rape and murder and all of these things that you've experienced, right? And then little T trauma could be anything from being bullied or watching your parents like mishandle money and all of these things. And when I was researching this subject, it's very clear that had you not healed those things, it's really hard to go into business, because you start going into it with like not trusting people, right? You moving different. You want to control certain things. So with little T trauma, if you've heard of it, and I can give you some examples of it, but if you have, does that, because I know how big T trauma can affect you, but just the little subtle things that we go through life that we just, it's not trauma, right? Because we love to say stuff not trauma, right? Being in an abusive relationship, it's not trauma, right? There could be way worse things. Being in a bad relationship and all these things that cause you these traumatic experiences. How can some of the little T traumas that we disregard affect you in business?
So let me speak to some of the research, and really specifically more of just the concept of big T and little T, right? Because I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And I want whoever is listening to this to consider this. A good friend of mine has this place here called the Mental Health Gym. And what I loved about what he said when I was having a conversation with him is he began to talk about how trauma is trauma, because we don't know how it impacts somebody that moves to a child that moves to a different school can be just as traumatized as somebody that saw somebody get shot in the head in front of them.
Yes.
Right? Because it's new. Trauma is trauma. Right now,
trauma.
I do understand the concept though of right. We like to group things, but I learned that I don't want to say to somebody, oh, that's little trauma, that's little T, because I don't know. I didn't feel it. I didn't experience it. You see what I'm saying? Right?
Absolutely.
And so it's but I do fully understand what the way in which they describe big T and little T. But what I'll share with you in terms of how it connects to business is exactly what you said. Trust is a great example. You can't build your team if you're still operating under this idea of I have to do everything on my own. I can't depend on nobody. Don't trust nobody. You can't scale your business because you won't trust yourself enough to give tasks to other people because you won't trust them.
Yes. Right.
And so you have to make the connection. And sometimes you won't be able to see it. I won't be able to see it. There are things that I don't see, right? My wife, my partner, she says things, my therapist, right? Like there are certain things that I can't see because I'm in it. And so you need some outside sources to say, yo, have you ever thought about this? Or have you ever thought about that? So that example of trust is a great example of how it connects to business.
Yeah, and I wonder too if and of course I'm not a therapist, as I should be. I call you my ghetto therapist. What's up? Listen, ain't got a degree. I got a criminal justice degree, but I'm starting to understand psychology a little bit, and I wonder if the reason why they broke down little T and big T and little T is because little T because I've suppressed a lot of little T. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Because it's not as big as somebody else getting this or getting that. And so what I went through was so small and so I wonder if they made it just almost like this acronym and something to make people feel like, no, it's part of it, right? Because that's how you show up to the world. And so
let me ask you this real quick. I'm sorry, because you got me, and I don't want to miss this thought, because what I'm thinking about right now is if you share with somebody, just for the sake of an example, oh my goodness, this guy just did such and such, and I just feel so bad. I feel like this. It made me feel it, right? It made you feel just terrible. And somebody said to you, ain't no way that made you feel like that. Like you would feel a certain type of way. Like, hold on, how you gonna tell me how I felt?
Because I've been through worse, right? So it's that. So I think that's the little T trauma that is often misunderstood or not talked about, because it's not my husband cheated on me versus my boyfriend, right? That's just a small example, but because I'm married, that's supposed to hold a different weight versus my boyfriend. Or I got molested at 25, right? Because you hear women that say I've got molested at a very late age versus if I was 10. And somehow those degrees are supposed to be different. And I like that you pointed out that it's a matter of how you feel about it. Trauma is trauma. And I think that we have normalized that if it isn't this big degree of something, then, because listen, I said it when I was talking to my therapist, and I'll share with you just so to kind of give a outline of what little T trauma could be. My aunt's boyfriend, when I was So I used to have really, really bad cramps, when I was like, it started very, very early, right? So my mom was at work. My dad was at work. So I went by my aunt's house. Her boyfriend was there. We didn't know him much. And when I got there, he had a robe open. He had a white robe. It was open. So remind you, I'm like 14.
Yeah.
He's probably, let's just say 30, right? I'm just kind of giving out some ages. And he had his robe open, nothing under it. When I got into the bed, I called my mom at work, like, yo, I'm feeling kind of weird. Something's not right. He get in the bed with me. He gets a cuddling with me, right? So never penetrated me, never none of that, right? But as you can imagine, as a 13, 14-year-old girl, I was traumatized. Like I could still tell you the room, his outfit, his name, his last name, everything. But when I was younger, it was very much like, well, you weren't raped, right? It was just very much like you was kind of, he cuddled with you. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So it's an example of how parents and people diminish the effects of kids and people. And so that's very much, to me as an adult, big T trauma, because now I don't trust men. Not now, y'all. I'm sorry, men. I'm still out here. Tell me to come back. I'm cool. But I did my healing. But you see what I'm saying? Like that could be a whole bigger thing of, I went through my not trusting men and I wasn't super affectionate. And so little T trauma becomes way big T. And do you see that in business, Dr. Joe? How just my conversation with you, if we were having a session, could you see how that small, that people would consider it small, right? Because I wasn't necessarily penetrated, could affect me in business and trust in people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's happening. It's been happening, right? Let's take women, right? Women have been dismissed. Women have been overlooked, right? And this started with men, particularly white men, right? And you know, we live in a very misogynistic, patriarchal society. And what happens is, if that's what you've been through, when you get into the corporate world, or you're running your business and you're in a room, think about that feeling, maybe that anxiety, maybe that anger, and you don't know what you're mad at some point, but then you realize it's connected to what I've been through, right? Or what I've been going through and what I'm currently going through, right? It's, I always say, I'm tired of people talking about post-traumatic stress syndrome, right? How about we talk about CTSD, right? Continuous traumatic stress syndrome, because a lot of these things keep happening over and over. And even if it's not us that is happening with, it might be happening to somebody that looks like me, and I'm experiencing that effect. So I always talk about continuous traumatic stress syndrome, because I feel it even when it's not me, but it's happening to people who look like me. So women, I know they feel that in rooms, in business.
Yeah, I need you to touch on that, because you can't just, we're not going to escape by that. I've never heard of that term, which it makes complete sense to me. Can you go a little bit deeper on what you said, continuous post-traumatic stress? What does that mean?
Yeah, so you have PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress, something happened.
Something that happened prior.
Past, right?
Yeah.
Then you have CTSD, continuous traumatic stress syndrome, which that's continuing to happen. A great example of that is the friction between law enforcement and men of color, particularly Black men, right? Yeah. It's been my great grandfather had issues with law enforcement. My grandfather, my father, me. Now my sons are seeing it as well. Continuous traumatic stress. And guess what? It's not always happening to me, but we see it on social media. We see it on the news. We see it when we're driving. So that's continuous traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah. So when you see that as a Black male, and you've seen that from your father, and then now you're looking at it as your kids, when it relates to business, do you feel like you show up differently because of that?
Great. I love that question, because what I've learned to do is I had to learn how to be a chameleon and how to show up as myself authentically in different spaces. Okay. Right. Okay. And so I'm never gonna, hey, how are you? Oh, hello. I'm not gonna do all that. I'm gonna be me. But I also know in order for me to get in certain doors, I may not have my hat on. I may have a suit on, right? I may say, hey, how you doing? Versus what's good, yo? What's up with you? You know what I'm saying? Like I've learned how to navigate, but I'm still gonna be me.
Yeah.
Right. And because of the way the world is, you have to do that if you want to move and be able to work in different spaces. Some people choose not to, and that is okay. They're gonna be who they are, right? And they only gonna be able to operate in certain spaces because they choose to. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm always in different spaces, right? Corporate space, I can go back home, a neighborhood. I'm always in these different spaces. And so it's important for me to know the game if I want to play in that game.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that I had a whole different question, but I had a whole different question because I wonder if when it comes to business, are we supposed to navigate with everyone, or are we only supposed to navigate with the people who we choose to market to? Like, these are the people that loves my business, or are we supposed to be relatable to all of these things? And I think about it because even in corporate, sometimes I wear Jordans, sometimes I wear blazers, and it's exhausting because I don't really know how to show up to the world. So when it comes to business, are we supposed to just show up authentically, Dr. Joe? Or are we supposed to know our audience? Or can I show up to jeans? So I'll tell you, for an example, I had a second interview, and it was in person, and I am very much a jeans, Jordans, and a blazer sort of person. It's corporate, but then it's a little hood. It's a little, you know what I mean? I get a little razzle dazzle. And they were like, they'll never give you the job. Don't do it. I showed up, they ended up offering me the job.
Yeah.
Less money than what I wanted. And so I didn't accept it. And so how are we supposed to show up to the world when we're in the spaces? Does it have to do with my trauma? Does it have to do with I grew up in the hood and part of me still want to wear J's because that's how I relate? Or certain venues, like, does like attire matter, or does it not? Am I supposed to be buttoned up because I make 150,000? Like, what's your thoughts on, like, and this is the whole segue because I didn't expect to have this conversation, but I want to know, because just for me, does it matter what we wear, or are we tailoring it to environments, or can I just show up as Erika, and if you want me and I can do an Excel spreadsheet better than anyone? Like, what does that look like to you?
You know, so number one, you're not wearing J's, you're wearing Dookies. All right, in Milwaukee, you wear Dookies.
Hold on. So no, it wasn't no Dookies. Don't never. I don't like them. They look big on my feet, and I don't wear them.
Hey, I feel you. I don't really wear them either, but you know.
They thick.
Hey,
Dr. Joe, they not thick. Are they thick?
No, they kind of booty. They kind of like boot Timberlands wide, you know. But
no, I don't want them.
No, but hey, I learned real quick outside of the city. When I say, hey, y'all got those Dookies, they like, what Dookies?
Hey, you already know. Don't do it.
Right. No, but to answer your question, right? I heard a couple of questions in there. One is, you know, how to show up, and I learned a lesson early in my career where, the first thing you want to do is, if that's where you want to play in, once again, you get to choose if that's the area you want to be in. But when I started to do corporate work, I learned that one of the first things I had to do was get in the door, right? And some of us, we show up to wherever we feel like we want to be in without knowing the game, right? And what I realized was that I had to learn, who was I going to be talking to, or who was going to make the decisions, right? Who is that? Because if they're making a decision based off of their understanding and their beliefs, I have to know how to operate in that space. I can be me and come in there suited and booted, no sneakers, no hat, and I'm good. I could do that. Then when I'm in the door, I got the contract, boom. I'm wearing my sneakers, my suit, my fitted, however I want to do it. But some of us will get mad that we can't get in the door. But you got to understand, there are still some people who are blocking the door right now, and they're going to be there for a while. So if you want to get in there, you got to learn how to get in there, right? So that's the first thing. right? And what that means is, and I know you're talking to your dog. It's okay, keep talking. I'll keep on going. But what that means is, it's all about being a chameleon, right? Because some people think being authentic to themselves mean they don't have work to do, and that's not the case. Being authentic to who you are means you're constantly taking inventory of some of the things that you need to work on, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't go in just always, like I said, I'm using the example of this attitude, or you cussing somebody. You can't do that, right? You
Yeah,
have to
like
work on that.
this is who I am. This is
Yeah,
who I grew
can't
up.
do that.
And so
Can't do
it's
it.
way deeper than that. It's way deeper than the J's and the jeans. It's this is who I am. If they don't accept me, then that goes to a
Exactly.
deeper level. Okay. That makes sense.
Exactly. And somebody said in the chat, right? They said show up authentically, yet know how to read the room. That's what it's about, right? I always say you can't do anything you want in life. I say that all the time. I
Yeah.
say you can do anything you want if you understand and learn the game that you're trying to play, right?
That's fact. So get in the room.
You got to get in. And then guess what? Sometimes you get in and you realize I don't want to play here. I'm out.
I don't even want to play in this room.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
that's good. So my question to you is, have you had to deal with unhealed trauma in your, I'm gonna get all in your business. Okay, it's time to get in your business.
Come on with
it. So have you had to deal with unhealed trauma in your own life? And how has that affected you in business, or if it has?
Yeah. No doubt. Okay. So I believe I gave the example earlier, but we grew up in the same neighborhood, 53206. And when you come from survival mode and you're given the tools and the skills to navigate survival mode, once you get out of survival mode, those same skills and tools won't work. A great example is when you're taught, don't depend on nobody, stay loyal, right? Yes. Be able to do it for yourself, right? What you do is if you take that mentality into a space or into a world where you're no longer in survival mode, right? In business, for me, I didn't trust people to help me build my speaking business, right? I said, I'm gonna do it all myself. And what did that do? It stressed me the hell out.
Because of what? Break it down though. So you didn't trust people because of...
I didn't trust people because I was taught be able to do it on your own. And I was doing that for so long that I didn't trust anybody else to do it the way that I did it, right? So we have to know when it's time to reprogram ourselves and take our thinking, acting, and believing to another level, right? And some of us, we're so stuck on this IBM processor, that old school computer, right? There's a reason why you get that text every blue moon on your phone that says it's time to upgrade your operating system. Right? Yeah. There's a reason why you get that. We're humans, we've been programmed. Like any other technology, we've been programmed, and we need to always assess where we are, and we need to upgrade our operating system, right? Because if you don't, you're gonna miss out on going to your next level, and you'll be stuck. That's why you have a lot of people are stuck. They're still believing how they were believing in the 80s and the 90s, right? Yeah. Things are different now. Just mama and daddy and grandma, they lived in a different context. So what they taught you may no longer serve you.
No, for sure. So this is me being an entrepreneur, and I've had a couple different things that I've ventured into. Do you feel like in order to excel or go to the next level, or even just be a good business, do you need a team, Dr. Joe? Or do you feel like there are certain businesses where I can be this Dr. Joe, one stop, one show, baby? I'm marketing, I'm social media, I am product and content, whatever. And I'm showing up to the Zoom today. What's up? Because I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
Do you need a team, Dr. Joe? Is that important?
You need a team when you're ready for a team.
What's that mean?
Right. What that means is some of us don't have the money to pay others to do what we don't want to do anymore. Right. Do I know how to get on Photoshop and create something or edit a video? Yeah. Is that what I want to spend my time doing? No, absolutely not. right?
Yeah.
So what do? I pay a videographer, right? I pay people to create, certain content for me. And so what we have to know is like, yeah, there may be a time where you're servicing everything, all of the different roles. You're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're the artist, you're whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
However, you have to be able to learn how to right outsource and disseminate things that you don't really need to be doing, because you want to spend time doing what you're really really good at, so you can continue to grow at what you're good at, not do everything else. And now you're still staying here at that sweet spot of yours. You want that sweet spot to continue to get higher, higher, and higher, and you do that by growing your team.
Yeah. Yeah. So a team is more, so you do believe that people need a team, but it just depends on if your finances, if your business is able to bring in that sort of income. But
Yes, but
everyone
also,
needs somebody, right?
yeah, yes, but I want to be very clear, because
Okay.
sometimes what people hear when they hear team, right? They have oh, now I have a crew of 20 people, 10 people. You may have 3 or 4 people that's part of your team. Guess
That's
what?
smart.
You may have a virtual assistant in India that's doing all of your emails
Yes.
or your copy or whatever it may be. You may have somebody that's here that you know personally, they're going to shoot all your videos because they're here with you, right? You may
Yeah.
have, so it doesn't always look like you have this full you got this payroll that you have to pay out. However,
Yeah.
you may have people that you know, this is who I'm going to for certain things in my business. But at some point, if you choose to say, I need a whole team, full service, is full steam ahead, you can do that. But some people try to do it and they're not ready. They don't have the money, so they don't have the right people, and then they struggle.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think when I grew up, when I think of a team, I think of a CEO room. I don't know if you thought about this too, but like I think a team of full of people in a CEO room. I'm walking in, you this, you that, you that, you this, and I'm like, I don't have none of that now, right? And I'm cool. This is just my little. I got my dog, who my bodyguard apparently. I got a little ring light, and that's all I got, right? And I think that sometimes people need to understand you can still start and you can still move with not a lot of things and a lot of people,
Oh, yeah.
and to still keep moving, right? So you don't necessarily need a team right away, but I do think there is value in having people that can help you take the load off, because it becomes a lot. But I
Yeah.
think, like we talked about earlier, it's that trust part of, I trust you to let go of some of these things that I don't think that you're going to take advantage of me of, or I don't think you're gonna, whatever it is. And so
And,
yeah.
and some, you hit it on the money. Like, if you were waiting to be at a place where you were walking in as the CEO and you had people at the table, maybe you would have never gotten started, right? So you could start with just yourself, right? But the other thing is this, because we forget that we have access to people but don't know how to take advantage. For example, if you live in a town or a city that has a college,
Yeah.
you have students at that college that need experience. And so they can use it as part of their class. They can use it as internship, whatever it may be. So sometimes you could go on a college campus, right? Connect with the business department, right? The
Yeah.
business program, whatever, and say, hey, these are some of the needs that I need. These are some of the needs that I have. Do you have anyone that would be great? And you can start to funnel free, because they just need the experience and the hours at
Yeah.
times, right?
Yeah.
Now you have, I don't like to call it free labor, because sometimes when you put the word free, people think that you don't supposed to get quality. No, if someone does something for free for you, it still needs to be quality.
For
right?
sure.
But that's a way to get some folks to help you out, right? Using the college as a resource, but a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, and I'll even add to that. So I did a swimsuit line. I created a swimsuit line maybe, Dr. Joe, maybe 10 years ago, and I put it out on Craigslist for models in Dallas. And when I tell you, I had so many different models that modeled it, and they didn't ask for anything other than, can I share the pictures? They didn't want anything. And I think that we estimate people's want and desire to do well. And they just want to be seen. They want to say, listen, I was part of the Buttercup swimwear line. Can I tag you in it? And that's how you get a start to it. And so it's no different than you giving me this chance, and you didn't have to, and I don't have a lot of credentials I do, but I don't, right? So on paper, you're like, who the hell is Erika? But you still gave me a chance. So I think it's something to be said about just reaching out and putting yourself out there. And that creates a team in itself.
But let me just say this. You have the number one credential that a lot of folks don't have, right? Matter of fact, you have several. One, you're easy to connect with and talk to, right? Two, you have heart. Three, you're going after what you want unapologetically. If you get a no, you get a no. You're gonna keep it moving. That's the vibe I get from you. So you have the credential. So keep it moving.
Thank you, Dr. Joe.
There
Because
you
I
go.
sure inbox you. I was looking like, is he gonna respond? Hold on. And yes, that is a whole nugget for new people. Keep going. You never know. So I'm grateful. So we're gonna wrap it up here soon, but I do have a question. What are some signs that a person should look for in business to where they may feel that their past is affecting their current business? So the trauma that they went through, they're kind of struggling with business, or maybe not struggling, but signs with new entrepreneur, maybe not new, but maybe their business isn't going as well as they want it to be. Is there certain signs that you look for as a coach to where you're like, it's not going to where you want because you're suffering from X, Y, and Z sort of trauma?
Yeah. So a few things that I've noticed in my career. Number one is people are stuck, right? People are stuck. They're stuck. They don't know how to move forward. Maybe they're stuck where they can't grow their team, right? So they've been stuck at only having 3 people and they want more people, but they're stuck. They don't know how to do it. Maybe they're stuck in terms of they've been making $100,000 for the last 5 years and they can't get past, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I made 105, but I want to be at 250 by now, right? But people are stuck, right? Another thing is the way in which they connect with people, right? And what I mean by that is if you're having a hard time connecting with the people who you work with, right? Or who you're trying to work with and it's just not working out, there's something there. There's something there, right? It's the same as like a romantic relationship. If that connection just ain't happening, something ain't right.
Something's not right.
Something ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And the other thing that I always ask people to think about is their energy and stress level, right? Because if you're always stressed out or you don't have a lot of energy, you're tired or you're overeating, oversleeping, right? These are some things that you have to pay attention to. Something is off. And I always tell people your body talks to you.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't listen, you're going to make it work. It's just like if you break your leg and you say, no, I'm good. It'll heal. It'll heal. It'll heal. It might heal, but it won't heal the way that it's supposed to heal. That's why you got to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's important for you to think about, are you stuck? Right? Think about the way in which you're connecting with people, but then also think about your stress level and your energy.
Yeah. So for the people that may be in that spot, what are some tools or some resources that you would say, listen, if you're feeling stuck, these are the things that you should do to attempt to get unstuck? What is the process for that?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I always ask people to do is slow down, right? And I have a process that I created called the R4 process that I walk people through in my program. And it's very simple. It's about reflecting, releasing, reprogramming, and restarting. Right. Now, I would break that down, but if you want more, go to www.workwithdrjoe.com. Right. And I do a session every month and I walk people through that process. Right. And it's all about getting to your next level. Right. How do you get, you talk about getting to the bag. You got to do some internal work in order to get to the bag, because a lot of people who get to the bag but don't do that internal work, they might lose it. Right. And so the first thing that I always share is you got to reflect. Right. And sit and think about what is going on. Slow yourself down because the world moves so fast. And for those of you who are trying to keep up with people and look like you got it, I need you to stop, because I would rather be the part than look the part. And too many people out here, they look good, but they ain't got nothing. They ain't got nothing. And I don't want you to be that person. Go ahead.
Dr. Joe, what they reflecting? Are they reflecting on their past or their present? I mean, what's the and maybe I'm giving, they may need to sign up at your website, but
they do www.workwithdrjoe.com. right? Do that right now, right? But yeah, they're reflecting on where they've been, what they've
Okay.
been through. They're reflecting on where they are. They're
Yes.
reflecting on where they're going. Because I always tell people that you have to respect where you are, but honor where you are going. And one of the ways that you honor where you are going is you do the work on yourself.
Yes. Yes. That's good.
And listen, here's another way. I'm gonna give you a tool, right? We talked about it earlier. But
Yeah.
if you go, I just created because what I heard is I heard a lot of people saying, well, I don't even know how to get a therapist. I don't know. I created a step-by-step it's an ebook, a step-by-step process on finding the right therapist for you, right? It's called How to Find a Therapist. Very simple,
Yes.
right? If you go to joejohnsongroup.com/shop, you'll find it. joejohnsongroup.com/shop, you'll find it. But once again, y'all, if you're not doing the work on yourself, I don't
Yes.
care what business you're trying to get. I don't care the relationship you're trying to get. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you're trying to be a good parent, listen, it all starts with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at your ebook, and I'm really, really, as you can imagine, big on therapy. And do you feel that a lot of people just kind of use the excuse of like, I don't know where to find a therapist, or I can't afford it, or like, what's been your experience? So I can say for mine has been very much of like, it's not even that they can't afford it, because I seen you at brunch with the bag. I'm talking about unlimited mimosas for everybody. So
Yeah.
Dr.
That's
Joe,
3 sessions. That's 3 sessions.
listen, do you understand what I'm saying? Round 3 on me. That's the whole. And so we see it all the time. So sometimes I feel like the money aspect has been thrown out there versus a necessity. Do you see that just in your world? Or is that just in Erika Genice's world?
Well, I've seen a few things in my life. And one of the things that people have been scared to say. See, I like to say what some folks won't say. So let's just be real. A lot of folks been saying, I'm gonna go to my pastor or I'm gonna pray about it, right? And it don't work like that. You can do that, and I said this
Okay.
earlier. And you got to go to a professional. Your pastor is not a professional therapist, right? They may be very skilled on working with you spiritually, but
Yes.
there's some other parts of you that you have to have a professional work with you with, right? And
Yes.
so I've heard that. I've heard I just don't know. I've heard I don't want to look crazy, because that's a misconception that if you go to a therapist, you're crazy, right? Now, what I will say is I'm seeing more and more people go and get therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're shifting the narrative from if you go, you crazy, to we need to do it no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have to wait until an issue happens before we get therapy. We want to be preventative versus wait till something happens and now we're jumping out there to try to get a therapist. So do that preventative work. But those are some of the things that I've heard.
Yeah, the funny part is when I went to my therapist, she was like, I do virtual. I was like, no, I need to go in, put my feet up. I want to feel nuts. I want to feel like, damn, she great. I am.
Yeah.
I've been from Milwaukee. I done seen deaths on deaths. I'm nuts. And so I think that there are so many, and I say that to make light of it, but there are so many tools out here, Dr. Joe, and thank you for creating that platform. And when we get off the phone, I will be sure to put that on this conversation. But there are tools out here for people. I know a couple therapists who have agreed to just do a couple free sessions just on the strength of knowing me. And so there are resources out here, and Jesus, we fool with you. But there's way other things out here that can help you. And so I think there is a combination of a lot of different things. And so, and I think, Dr. Joe, that you're one of them. I think that you are somebody that people can talk to, who you're extremely relatable. You have similar backgrounds as a lot of us brown people. And I'm just glad that you were able to have this conversation with me. I really am.
No. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing. And I just want to make sure that people truly understand that this conversation is critical. And hopefully the one thing that you got out of this was that you have to do the work, right? You have to
You
do the
have
work
to.
on yourself
You.
right?
You.
You have to, if you want a thriving business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a great partner to somebody, if you want to be a great parent, if you just want to live the life that you desire, you have to do the work. And I always tell people that your purpose and your profit is directly connected to your individual healing. So if you don't work on that, right, because you have to be accountable. You have to be accountable. And always, I tell people this too. Your ability to be accountable is directly connected to your accounts receivable. So if you're broke, that might mean you haven't been accountable of what you've been doing in your life.
Yes.
Right? It's important for you to do the work. And if you want more, make sure you go to www.workwithdrjoe.com, www.workwithdrjoe.com. I'm super open to connecting with you all. Find me at Joe Johnson Speaks on Instagram. I'm always on there. But when it's all said and done, I want you, even if it's not me, to do what's necessary for you to win and for you to live purposefully and intentional in this life.
Yes. Well, thank you, Dr. Joe. I'm so humbled. I'm so honored. I feel like we need to do a part 2, but your time just be.
We'll
Woo!
figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We will, but thank you so much. And I will drop off his website, your ebook, all of the things that you offer and the resources. I think you're absolutely incredible to give me a chance. You didn't have to, you knew me from nobody. Let's be real. Like, we didn't grow up together. This was a LinkedIn post. And so thank you so much, Dr. Joe, for your time and what you do for our community.
Absolutely. And just hit me up if you need me. I'm super open. As long as you a person of, just a person of your word and you do quality work, my network is open to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Bye.